probably around 10 or 12 years old, in that general time frame. And a little bit of context, I guess. So I grew up in this kind of rural town in the Midwest. And like I lived in this neighborhood, and a lot of the other people in the neighborhood were boys. So whenever I wanted to go out and play, it'd be a lot of times I'd be playing with the neighborhood boys. We would get up to all sorts of, I guess, troublemaking or whatnot. But one particularly fond memory that I think I can kind of look back to is there was this day. It was very sunny. It's very nice. It probably had to have been sometime in the summer. Just the weather was warm, as warm as it gets, up in the Midwest, I suppose. And we were all out. It was me, and it was these kids that lived right next door to me. It was three brothers. I usually hung out with the younger two because they were kind of closer to my age. And they were more outdoorsy as well. So we would all go outdoors, and we would come up with all sorts of, ideas and things to mess around with, just kind of running around. We had a little boundary. We were young, so we couldn't go too far out, but, we loved riding our bikes around the same, sort of four corners of the neighborhood. And so there was this one day we had these old, I guess they're just soda cans, right? Probably generic brand. And my parents didn't really let me drink soda a whole lot. They tried to kind of keep me on a relatively healthy diet, with the money that we had. And so, they tried to kind of keep me away from things like McDonald's, soda, stuff like that. So, if I wanted to get something, that was kind of like junk food, I'd go over to their house, to the neighborhood boys' house. So we had a little bit of soda. It was nice. We were just kind of playing out in the yard. We wanted to get our bikes. We were just kind of feeling like it that specific day. And one of the boys was like, hey, I have this thing that my friend showed me, right? And so, we take these cans that we were drinking from, we finish them, and he basically showed us how to put the can in between the back wheel of the bike, of each of our bikes, and just kind of tuck it in there to where the metal kind of part of the bike would hold the can against the wheel. And essentially what it was supposed to do was make our bikes sound like motorcycles, so that we could feel all cool while we were riding them throughout the neighborhood. And so we were able to get all the cans on. It was a great 5 minutes, it was really fun 5 minutes where we were just rolling around, sounding all cool, like we were grown-ups with motorcycles, around this neighborhood. And so there's this house. It's kind of towards the end of where our perimeter was, where we were supposed to be. And I didn't know the guy that lived in there. I only heard kind of rumors about him, right? He's this kind of stoic older man. I think that he, was divorced, and he just kind of lived in this house, just up the hill in this tucked away corner by himself. Kids talk. They're like, "Oh no, he's so mean. He's a very grumpy guy, right? You want to steer clear of him."
There's a bug in your hair.
Oh, thank you. Is it on this side?
Oh, you think you knocked it off?
Yay, thank you. No, you're good. And so, it's just steer clear of him, because he's real mean. And, we're out there riding these bikes, and he stops us. He comes out, he notices us, and he's stops us. And we're like, oh, shoot, are we in trouble? I don't know what we did, but, why is he, yelling at us? And so he stops us in our tracks. He runs right out to the road. He comes out, and he's like, hey, you should not do this to your bike, okay? It will ruin your wheels. It's going to wear down your wheels, and it's going to be less safe to ride that bike, okay? I need you to stop. I know it sounds cool, but you could really hurt yourself. And we're over here looking at each other like, is he really intervening for this, And I mean, we're dumb kids. We think we're tough. And so, we're kind of like, well, we like the sound of it. None of us are worried about falling off our bikes or, the wheels going bad. But he eventually was able to convince us to just, come on, all right? Your parents will get worried, they'll have to pay for a new wheel, and, that sort of stuff. We're like, oh, shoot, we could get grounded if we ruin these wheels is the big thing that we were worried about. If we, damage the wheels enough, and then we won't be able to ride our bikes anyway, because it'll be damaged. So, he talked us through it. We thought it out a little bit, and so he was kind enough to come up to each of our bikes, and because it's already used, it gets kind of jammed in there. It's hard for us to kind of take it out, so he uses his strength. He's able to take all of the cans out of our wheels, and just kind of have that sort of stern lecture with us. We're just like, darn, that was so fun. Why do we have to stop that? It's not that big of a deal, right? But looking back at it, it's interesting, I guess, because he comes off as this sort of very stern individual, and I've actually hadn't had an interaction with him since that day, right? It was that one time he came out of his house, out of his little, I guess, tower at the edge of the neighborhood, and I didn't talk to him ever since then. He never, I guess, had a reason to come stop me. I guess all of our mischief, we steered clear of his line of vision after that, I guess. But we didn't use the cans anymore, so it worked as far as he's concerned. But it's just interesting kind of having that interaction. It kind of reminds me of episodes of the Goonies or things like that, or Goosebumps. That's what I was thinking. These kids are coming, and they're doing all sorts of mischief, and of course it's that one stern guy that everybody thinks is the bad guy that ends up coming in and being the voice of reason. And so I do look back at that memory pretty fondly, because he did get us to stop, and at the end of the day it was a good idea, because my mom would have been pretty mad if I had ruined the wheels on this bike that she chipped in the money to get me in the first place, right? So yeah, we went on about our days. We enjoyed just riding bikes like normal kids now, I guess. And I guess it was for the best. But yeah, I don't know. It's just interesting. It's the one time I interacted with the guy, and it had to be because he was scolding me, but such is the way. But yeah, that's that, I suppose.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.